The conference room at Artemis Technologies was in complete uproar. Red lights flickered across the row of control panels as a blaring siren rattled every glossy window. 50 employees stood paralyzed around the central display. One man loomed above the rest, looking as though he were on the verge of either shouting the entire building down or collapsing from the strain in his temples. That individual was CEO Braxton Locke, tall, sharply dressed, but with eyes that radiated panic. He snapped his fingers at a cluster of senior engineers, barking orders with a voice taut from desperation. When his gaze settled on the most unassuming figure in the room, a woman in a faded custodian's uniform, he sneered, "Hey you, the cleaning lady? Come here. Since my brilliant staff can't solve this crisis, maybe you can mop up the code errors the way you mop our floors." Ender. A hush so profound it could crack glass descended. The woman set aside her mop bucket. Her name tag said Alina. Her face, framed by a few loose strands of hair from a hastily tied bun. "Betrayedno fear." She approached slowly, ignoring the stunned looks from employees who obviously wondered why on earth the CEO would single out the janitor. Now think for a moment. If you were in Alina's shoes, would you speak up or remain silent? Would you risk humiliation just to prove a point? That question hovered in the air, unspoken yet palpable. Alina didn't answer Braxton's taunt. Instead, she lowered her gaze, partly to hide the flare of anger that flashed briefly in her blue eyes. At 5'6", with a slender build, she looked like someone who had weathered countless storms, but never boasted about it. Tiny scars dotted her knuckles, as though she had once handled intricate instruments rather than the heavy disinfectant supplies stacked on her cleaning cart. She moved aside, giving the men with laptops room to breathe, then quietly left the conference room. Braxton shook his head, letting out a derisive laugh. "That's right, keep walking. If none of my top-paid engineers can fix the meltdown, I Janiter sure won't. Might as well get back to scrubbing toilets." But something about Alina's composure tugged at the fringes of curiosity. For a few witnesses who had glimpsed her face, that sense of calm like a patient hawk felt entirely out of place. One of the younger engineers frowned as he watched her go. He had seen her slip in and out of labs at odd hours. Or so he thought. She always kept her head down, never lingering. Yet a tiny voice inside him whispered that there was more to her than menial cleaning. Who was she? Why did she seem so unimpressed by Braxton's demeaning remarks? Could there be a secret behind those tired eyes? The answers weren't forthcoming, but a single pivot in Alina's path told a story. While trudging away, she paused near a wall display showing the error logs. Her gaze caught on a line of red-coded text. "Quantum entanglement module, overflow exception." Her lips moved, forming silent words, as if she knew exactly what that message meant. Then, with a deep breath, she resumed her exit, disappearing down the corridor. Meanwhile, inside that same hallway, the swirl of chaos replayed in her mind. Alina pressed her back against a white partition, ignoring the bustle of frantic engineers. She placed a hand gently over her heart, an old, involuntary gesture she had adopted when memories of a different life threatened to break through. In that different life, she wore no janitor uniform. In that different life, she navigated quantum diagrams that dazzled the greatest minds in computing. A lingering question floated in her thoughts. How did I end up here? A memory cut sharply across her mental vision. 2 years prior, she was not a nameless, invisible worker. She was Dr. Blank, Alina Pierce, the keynote speaker at a prestigious tech symposium. She had been the star attraction, the young woman who revolutionized qubit error correction. Large institutions fought for her presence in their labs. And then everything unraveled. But how? Let's step back further. Let's see what happened in her life before Artemis Technologies. Before she was forced to push a mop, while others advanced technology in ways she had once pioneered. She used to wear her hair neatly pinned, her posture refined from years of academic presentations. University halls had echoed with applause when she introduced a groundbreaking algorithm for stabilizing entangled qubits. That algorithm put her face on the cover of multiple scientific journals. Investors saw endless potential in her methods. She had a fiancé as well, a charismatic man named Nicholas Storm, who partnered with her to launch their own research firm. They called it NovaFlux. Together, they aimed to commercialize her quantum breakthroughs. For a while, life felt perfect. She was in her mid-20s, brimming with optimism. Then came the betrayal. She discovered that Nicholas siphoned her code into private patent applications, forging her signature so the intellectual property would be in his name. He'd convinced external parties in foreign governments that he could sell them advanced quantum computing secrets, and she found out too late. By the time her suspicion turned to panic, he had manipulated the narrative to paint her as the one selling out national security. The authorities stormed her lab. She was blindsided, pinned as a traitor, her name tarnished, her fiancé vanished, her research stolen. Though no official charges stuck due to lack of conclusive evidence, her professional reputation sank faster than any attempt at damage control. Funding for her projects evaporated, colleagues grew distant, job offers withdrew. The press loved the scandal and never bothered with follow-up stories clarifying her innocence. She fled the chaos, seeking refuge with her mother, Claire Pierce, a retired physics professor and Alina's biggest supporter. That woman's unwavering belief gave Alina the will to keep going until the day Claire suddenly passed from a heart condition. The last letter from her mother came a few days after the funeral. Alina never read it fully, too consumed by grief and self-loathing. Soon after, she adopted a quieter existence, applying under a different last name for modest roles. Artemis Technologies eventually hired Alina Ward, never suspecting she was the brilliant Dr. Pierce. Now, here she was, leaning against a hallway in the midst of yet another corporate meltdown. She swallowed hard, recalling every sneer and jibe from Braxton Locke. The more he despised her, the more she told herself it didn't matter. She was used to being invisible, after all. Yet the glimpse of that malfunctioning code line haunted her. She recognized it instantly. Someone had tried to patch quantum entanglement protocols in a sloppy manner, ignoring the boundaries of the algorithm's recursion. Why was she compelled to fix it? Because deep down, she had once dedicated her life to perfecting that very concept. But then, she remembered. The last time she dared to help, it ended in heartbreak and betrayal. Her phone vibrated in her pocket. She retrieved it and noticed a date reminder pinned to her calendar. Review mother's letter. She had set that prompt a while ago, never mustering the courage to open the letter that was left behind. She frowned, pushing away from the wall, wandering toward the staff lounge. 1,000 swirling thoughts pressed against her consciousness. She was so preoccupied that she nearly knocked over her own mop bucket. Fix the machine, fix the machine. The words repeated in her mind, but fear of exposing herself held her back. She sighed, deciding it was safer to remain in the shadows, at least for the moment. Back in the conference room, Braxton Locke was far from calm. He was positively livid, pacing in circles. We have a $40 million defense contract on the line. If we can't get the quantum module stable, they'll revoke everything. His voice reverberated off glass walls. Where's that worthless cleaning lady now? She scurried off. Great. Everyone's running away from a meltdown. Maybe I should call 911. A few uneasy chuckles broke the tension. The lead engineer, Jared Bentley wiped sweat from his brow and stammered about not finding any solution in the error logs. Another developer pored over lines of code that seemed to get more incomprehensible by the second. The air smelled of stale coffee and dread. A tall woman in a crisp suit, Denise Blackwood, CFO, tried to reason with Braxton. "Sir, we might need an external quantum computing expert. Our team can't pinpoint the error. This system is more advanced than what we've trained on. Perhaps we can hire a consultant with specialized knowledge." Braxton cut her off, voice cracking with exasperation. "A consultant? That'll take days to onboard? We don't have days." His fist slammed onto the table, making everyone jump. In the corner, the young engineer who noticed Alina earlier scrolled through his phone, debating whether to chase after her. Something in her demeanor suggested hidden insight, but he couldn't muster the nerve to speak up to his boss. Braxton was in no mood to hear about hunches from a rookie. Meanwhile, Alina slunk into a side corridor that led to a janitorial closet. She closed the door, flicked on the overhead light, and slumped onto a stool. Stacked along the walls were cleaning supplies and old file boxes. She glanced at her phone again. This time, she pulled out the sealed envelope that she had been afraid to open. Faded ink spelled out her name. "My darling Alina." Her mother's handwriting triggered a pang in her chest. She brushed away a tear. Then, with trembling hands, she slid a finger under the flap. At last, she would see what final words Claire Pierce had left her. The letter's text was short. "My brilliant girl, you are stronger than you know. People may bury you in lies, but truth has a way of surfacing. Don't hide your light. Your gift isn't just for yourself. It's for those who can't speak for themselves. You have every right to stand tall. With all my love, Mom." Alina pressed the letter to her chest, tears silently slipping down her cheeks. She recalled how her mother always taught her that knowledge was meaningless if hoarded for selfish gain. The memory gave her a jolt of renewed willpower. Sitting amid mops and disinfectant, she whispered, "I won't cover. Not anymore." That decision coalesced into action far quicker than expected. She strode out of the closet. She marched toward the elevator. People in the corridor gave her odd looks, seeing the fierceness in her eyes. When she got back to the conference room entrance, a uniformed security guard blocked her path. "Sorry, ma'am, Mr. Locke's orders. No unauthorized staff allowed." Alina inhaled, summoning the courage to break her vow of invisibility. "Step aside. I'm about to do your boss a favor, unless he wants to lose that $40 million contract." Something in her voice or posture convinced the guard to yield, and she slipped in. Inside, the atmosphere felt suffocating with tension. Braxton was mid-yell, chastising the team for failing to produce results. He spun abruptly when Alina entered. "Oh, look who's back." The mop lady returns, presumably to wave a towel in front of the quantum machine. She locked eyes with him. "Give me 5 minutes at the main terminal." Half the room erupted in incredulous laughter. Braxton's nostrils flared. "Is this a joke? My staff is the best in the country, and they can't fix it. So please, enlighten me. What do you plan to do? Spray it with bleach?" In that instant, Alina's fingers tingled with adrenaline. She gestured calmly to the keyboard. "You asked me to mop up the code. I'm here to do just that, or you can keep mocking me until your contract is canceled. Your choice." The hush that followed was deafening. Braxton exchanged glances with his CFO and the cluster of engineers. Denise shrugged, as if to say, "What do we have to lose at this point?" Braxton flicked his hand toward the terminal, lips curled in a sneer. "Fine, you've got 5 minutes. Entertain us." Alina approached the screen. Lines of text scrolled in an endless wave of red and orange warnings. Jared Bentley, trying to mask his curiosity, said, "Watch out. Those threads are locked. We can't run a normal debug." But Alina was already typing. Each keystroke was deliberate. She navigated to a subroutine that no one else had touched. She paused briefly. The code used a variation of qubit entanglement that looked suspiciously close to her old method from years ago. Exhaling sharply, she recognized the major flaw. The phase shift correction was absent. That oversight would lead to an overflow after recursive calls. Precisely what she suspected upon glimpsing the error log. Her hands flew across the keys. She inserted a short patch, then another, rewriting sections to align with the original architecture she had invented in a previous chapter of her life. People behind her started leaning forward, jaws hanging open. She toggled to a console screen, ran a quick simulation, and watched the numbers stabilize. Then, ignoring the stares, she typed commands to restart the quantum module. During this flurry, Braxton huffed. "What is she even doing? She'll crash the whole system." No one dared to interrupt. Though, the entire sequence took less than 3 minutes. Alina pressed enter one final time. Then, like a sigh of relief, the system's red lights blinked off. The console displayed stable entanglement rates and drastically improved efficiency metrics. A technician gasped. "We're back online. Actually, it's performing better than our benchmarks." Jared blinked in awe. "Wait, did you see that recalibration? I've never." "What in the world?" Denise whispered. "Who is she?" Braxton, confounded, stepped forward. "This has to be a trick." Alina faced him calmly. "No trick, just correct math. If you had implemented the phase shift buffer, you wouldn't have been in crisis." She turned to the room. "You borrowed a design from, let's just say it was never meant to be half finished. If you're going to incorporate code from top minds, at least learn to do it properly. You'll." At that moment, the young engineer from earlier recognized the pattern in her patch. He had read a paper on advanced qubit error correction from a famed scientist named Dr. Alina Pierce. It dawned on him that what he had just witnessed was that same signature code, like a personal trademark. Feeling his pulse quicken, he asked quietly, You're Dr. Pierce, aren't you?" The name echoed like a bullet ricocheting across a canyon. Braxton stared wide-eyed, then scoffed. "Dr. Pierce? That's impossible. She's a traitor." Alina let out a quiet exhale. "I was wrongly labeled a traitor. But yes, I'm Dr. Pierce. Or I was. Until your industry decided I was worthless." Silence clamped down on the room. Even the electronics seemed to hum in respectful hush. Braxton's face reddened. He tried to regain composure. But it was too late. Everyone recognized the gravity of what just happened. The greatest quantum computing mind many had ever heard of was standing there in a battered uniform. The same person they had mocked moments ago. He cleared his throat, trying not to let panic show. "We had no idea. Why would you be mopping floors here? Why hide?" She squared her shoulders. A flicker of anguish crossed her features. But she refused to show weakness. "Because some of you decided my name was mud. The world turned me into a pariah after accusations I never deserved. When the uproar faded, all that remained was an empty bank account and a tarnished reputation. There was only one person who always believed in me, my mother." She paused, swallowing a wave of emotion. "She passed away before I had a chance to rebuild, but she left me her faith and the reminder that I can't hide forever." Braxton struggled for words. "Dr. Pierce, this company is on the verge of a major breakthrough. We'd be, we'd be honored if you'd accept a leadership role. You've already saved us from a meltdown. Let's discuss a generous compensation package. Alina raised a hand. Don't. For years, I endured humiliation, betrayal, and loss. I'm not interested in titles or money right now. She turned to face the employees who were still gawking. All I wanted was to remember that I have worth no matter what uniform I wear. Her mother's letter weighed on her heart. She remembered the line, "Don't hide your light." Taking a deep breath, she walked away from the main console. Braxton hurried after her, stumbling over a rolling chair in his haste. "Wait," he stammered. "Are you just going to leave us hanging? We still need you to refine the final build. Think of the potential. We'll rectify your name publicly if you want. We can restore your rightful place as a pioneer." Oh. Alina stared at him. She recalled all the times she had dreamed of hearing that exact promise. Strangely, none of it felt as fulfilling as she had imagined. Instead, she felt a calm sense of closure. Maybe one day I'll work again in a lab that respects me for who I am rather than for how I dress. But that day's not today. A wave of confusion rippled across the watchers. She took off her work badge and placed it on the edge of the conference table, next to a half-empty coffee cup. Then, she gave a slight nod to Jared, the one who recognized her code. He gazed back with an apologetic smile. Outside in the corridor, the weight of finality pressed on her shoulders. She inhaled deeply, reminding herself that she was not the same broken soul who retreated from the world 2 years prior. Her mother's words had guided her. "You are stronger than you know." Now, she would seize that strength and channel it to something more altruistic. She went down to the lobby, ignoring the flustered security staff who looked as though they might try to stop her. No one dared after they realized who she was. Stepping into the bright daylight, she rummaged in her jacket pocket for the letter again. Each sentence reminded her how knowledge means nothing if withheld out of fear. She decided she would help others who had also been judged, dismissed, or exiled from opportunities. Maybe she'd start a small initiative, teaching math to underprivileged youth or coding to single mothers. She didn't know the exact shape of that path yet, but she was certain of one thing: her gift belonged to her on her own terms. Meanwhile, on the top floor, Braxton Locke and the leadership team started reviewing the system data. They discovered, to their shock, that Alina's quick patch improved their quantum throughput by over 20% an advancement that could catapult Artemis Technologies far above their rivals. Without Dr. Pierce's insight, they would have lost everything. The CFO pressed her lips together, recalling how a few hours earlier, they had ridiculed the same woman for being a simple janitor. Braxton stormed to his desk, typed furiously on his computer, and demanded someone trace Alina's contact details. But she'd already resigned in the system. Jared approached him, face drawn. "Sir, you might want to think carefully about how you handle this. If you chase her with more insults, we'll lose her for good. She isn't about money or position. She wants respect." Braxton sank into his leather chair, burying his face in his hands. "I can't believe we mocked a pioneer. We're idiots. I'm an idiot." Maybe you should try apologizing," offered Jared with a nervous shrug. Across the city, Alina hopped on a bus heading towards the quieter suburbs. She settled in a seat near a young woman scrolling through an online tutorial on quantum algorithms. From the glances of confusion, it seemed the woman struggled to grasp the concept. Alina gave a gentle tap. "Having trouble? I might be able to help." Eibling, the stranger, sighed. "I'm new to coding, but I want to get better. My job prospects are bleak. So if I can master even the basics, it might open a door." Eibling, Alina nodded. feeling a twinge of empathy. She guided the woman through a tricky line of code, using an analogy that replaced obscure quantum terms with everyday objects. The woman's eyes lit up as she finally understood. By the next stop, she had scribbled a few pages of notes, brimming with renewed confidence. "Thank you so much," she breathed, stepping off the bus. She never asked Alina's name, and Alina didn't offer it. She simply waved goodbye. Once the bus cleared that stop, Alina gazed out the window, her thoughts drifting. She pictured her mother's encouraging smile. Then she murmured under her breath, "I won't let your faith be in vain." "Mom," the cityscape swept past. Each skyscraper, a testament to ambition. Each crowded street, a reminder that countless individuals hold untapped brilliance within them. Her mission now was to find those neglected minds and spark their potential. Eventually, she arrived at the rundown apartment she'd been renting. It was tidy but sparse, containing only necessities. She retrieved her phone and saw a barrage of missed calls. Artemis Technologies' number flashed repeatedly. She also saw unknown callers, likely members of the press, maybe hearing rumors of an extraordinary comeback by Dr. Pierce. She tapped the phone screen off, refusing to let outside noise disrupt this moment of clarity. Instead, she sat at the small wooden desk, cleared away some notes about cleaning schedules, and pulled out a blank notebook. On the front page, she wrote a single phrase: Project Horizon, a place for hidden talents. She wanted to outline a plan to help those overlooked by conventional hiring processes, people who might have the spark of genius but never got the right credentials or had been rejected due to stereotypes. That was exactly the kind of environment she wished she had found when the world turned its back on her. Her mother had once told her, "Everyone deserves a second chance, especially those who never got a first one." With that phrase running through her mind, Alina drafted a roadmap for workshops, mentorships, and eventually a small network where novices could learn. She might not have the capital yet, but she had the determination. The next day, as the sun rose, Alina left her apartment with new purpose. She headed downtown, wearing the same battered uniform for the last time. However, she carried herself differently, like someone stepping into her own power, rather than hiding from the world's gaze. When she clocked in, she fully intended to submit her final notice. Yet, something told her she should check one more place inside Artemis Technologies, a seldom visited sub-basement where outdated servers were stored. She had glimpsed a mention of it in an internal memo. It might contain traces of older code that she could salvage for her new project. Creeping down the deserted stairwell, she flicked on a single bare light bulb overhead. Dust motes danced as she inhaled the stale air. She typed a quick sequence on a neglected terminal and discovered partial backups of quantum routines that reminded her painfully of her own stolen research. Fury welled up in her chest. She shook her head, recalling how greed had ruined her professional life. Sighing, she decided to copy some of the public domain components. They could serve as a foundation for the educational modules she envisioned for Project Horizon. Then she heard footsteps echo behind her. She turned to see Braxton Locke, looking far more subdued than usual. He raised his hands in a gesture of peace. "I'm not here to harass you, Dr. Pierce. I'm well. I'm here to say I'm sorry. She eyed him warily. "Apologies can't erase everything you said, or the way you looked down on me because I'm just the cleaning lady." Braxton nodded, swallowing his pride. "You're right, it doesn't erase it. But I wanted to face you without all the onlookers. I handled this entire situation disgracefully. I ridiculed you, when in fact, I owe you. We all do." Alina set her jaw. "You owe me nothing except decency." And not just me. Every person who's ever been undervalued by this company, or by people in power. He sighed heavily. You're absolutely right. I let my ego get in the way. I can't fix how I treated you overnight. But I can promise to reevaluate this culture. I just hope you'll keep the lines of communication open. Maybe one day, you can consult with us under your terms. She raised an eyebrow. My terms? Yes, he said quietly. No more condescending remarks. No more belittling. A legitimate seat at the table, if you ever want it. Or if you want to set up a training program for staff from different backgrounds, I'll fund it. Her eyes widened slightly, but she caught herself. I can't say yes, not right now. This is all new, and I need time to process. But if you truly change how you run things, maybe we'll talk. Idemon 7. Braxton gave a curt nod, took a step back, and then left her in the dusty basement. Alina felt a swirl of conflicting emotions, satisfaction at hearing him acknowledge his faults, and wariness that it might just be a ploy. Perhaps he did realize he needed her for future expansions. Still, a kernel of hope sprouted that maybe progress could happen in places she never expected. She returned to ground level, turned in her resignation to HR, and walked out for the final time. No more uniform. No more quietly scrubbing floors while her brilliance remained hidden. Once outside, she peered at the bustling city streets. It was as though she were seeing them for the first time. Free from the weight of old wounds, her phone buzzed with more missed calls, including a message from a local journalist wanting an exclusive about the unknown genius at Artemis Technologies who fixed a meltdown in minutes. She shut her eyes, inhaled deeply. She wasn't ready to face the media storm. Not yet. She had other priorities. By afternoon, she was at a local community center in a modest neighborhood. She noticed a bulletin board pinned with flyers. Free ESL classes. Need a babysitter? Intro to coding, she smiled. That was exactly the environment she wanted to cultivate, an inclusive space for those seldom given a chance. While scanning the postings, she found an older woman struggling with an ancient laptop, trying to get a newly installed operating system to run a programming environment. Alina approached quietly, offered assistance, and soon discovered the woman was an immigrant, eager to learn. For over an hour, Alina guided her step by step, ignoring the sting in her stomach from skipping lunch. When they finished, the woman's gratitude was tangible. This gave Alina the nudge she needed to formally begin building Project Horizon. She took out her phone, opened a blank note, and typed the seeds of a plan, establishing weekly coding meetups, collaborating with local nonprofits, eventually branching into a digital platform for underrepresented talent. She would find sponsorships, maybe even approach Braxton if he proved sincere about supporting such an initiative. Days trickled by, then weeks. A swirl of phone calls pestered her. Some were from Braxton, some from tech giants, some from government agencies. Word spread quickly about the mysterious custodian-turned-quantum savior. People demanded interviews. Articles sprouted online, calling her a real-life hidden genius. She remained mostly silent, focusing on her new path. During that time, she got her finances in order and found a smaller, cheaper apartment to funnel more of her savings toward Project Horizon's growth. She met individuals from all walks of life: single mothers, veterans, unemployed dreamers, and recognized in their eyes the spark of potential overshadowed by circumstance. With each person she guided, she felt a piece of herself heal, as though she were restoring her sense of purpose. Occasionally, she'd get anxious pangs, recalling how Nicholas Storm destroyed her professional image. Yet she'd reaffirm her belief that knowledge was not the domain of a privileged few. She began hosting weekend workshops in borrowed classrooms, turning old technology into functional kits for basic coding sessions. Word of mouth spread, and soon the workshops were consistently full. She felt an odd mixture of pride and humility. None of these individuals knew the entire saga behind her name, but they recognized her skill and sincerity. Then came the day she stepped outside one of her workshops and saw a black sedan with tinted windows parked at the curb. Braxton Locke emerged, looking uncharacteristically casual in a sweater and jeans. At first, she almost recoiled, thinking he was there to cause trouble. But he approached with an uncertain half-smile. "I see your program is thriving," he said softly. "I heard about it from one of my own staff members, a woman, who said she learned more in 2 weeks with you than she did in 6 months at our training department. I'm impressed." She nodded. "Thank you. But if you're here to lure me back to Artemis, I'll save you the trouble. I'm still not interested." He held up his hands in a gesture of surrender. "That's not why I'm here. Dr. Pierce. Honestly, I came to donate, maybe sponsor some of your equipment if that's acceptable, as a small token to prove that I'm serious about changing the culture in my organization." Her eyes flicked toward the car. "Why the big sedan?" He chuckled nervously. "Force of habit, I guess. If you'd rather I came on foot with a backpack of laptops, I can arrange that." She softened. "Eyebite wary. You can step inside if you want to see what we're doing with your own eyes." He nodded. They walked together into the building, passing by tables where half a dozen participants were learning basic Python scripts. Alina explained her approach: small classes, hands-on problem solving, encouraging students to see problems as stepping stones. Occasionally, an excited participant would call out her name for assistance. Braxton observed, quietly taking in the dynamic. Eventually, he turned to her and said, "You know, your mother would be proud. You're teaching people who never had a chance." Alina's expression flickered. "Don't pretend to know what my mother would want." He grimaced, acknowledging her resentment. "I'm sorry, that was presumptuous. I only meant that it's admirable. This is the kind of environment we should have built inside Artemis from day one. But we got lost, chasing profits and prestige." She gave a tiny shrug. "Greed warps many visions." Braxton exhaled. "I'd like to sponsor your next workshop, if you'll allow it. And maybe in return, you can speak at our next internal leadership summit. I want my department heads to realize that talent comes from unexpected places, that we can't keep judging based on superficial factors." Alina studied him. Her instincts told her to keep her guard up, but another part of her saw a flicker of genuine remorse in his eyes. Perhaps he really was ready to shift how he led his business. She decided to give him the benefit of the doubt, albeit on a trial basis. "All right, I'll consider it. We'll see how it goes," she said quietly. He grinned, relief evident. A few months rolled past in a blur of activity. Alina's project horizon gained momentum. Thanks to a modest but crucial infusion of resources, she oversaw the creation of an online portal featuring tutorials for quantum basics that simplified complicated theories into approachable exercises. Her weekend workshops expanded into a weekday schedule, attracting a diverse crowd. She realized she was building precisely what she had yearned for in her darkest days, a supportive ecosystem that nurtured potential instead of dismissing it. One crisp morning, a representative from a major tech conference reached out, requesting Alina to be a keynote speaker. She hesitated. Public speaking might thrust her back into the spotlight she once fled, but the request mentioned that they wanted her to talk about bridging the gap between underrepresented individuals and high-level quantum research. That cause aligned perfectly with her mother's advice. Don't hide your light. Ultimately, she said yes. The day of the conference arrived. Alina stood backstage, glancing at the large auditorium. She wore a simple yet elegant blouse, her hair neatly pinned. The clock ticked closer to her slot. Nervous energy fluttered in her stomach. Then she recalled the letter's final lines. People may bury you in lies, but truth has a way of surfacing. She stepped onto the stage with a steady stride. A massive screen behind her displayed her name in bold letters. Dr. Alina Pierce, founder of Project Horizon. Applause thundered through the hall. This was the first time in a long while that people were cheering her name, not with suspicion, but with respect. She inhaled softly and began her talk with an anecdote about a single mother in her workshop who, in less than 3 months, developed the skills to land a junior developer role. Then, she recounted her own journey in carefully measured words, not dwelling on the past betrayal, but focusing on the lessons gleaned from adversity. Her voice resonated. I stand here today not as a victim, nor as a genius, but as someone who believes that brilliance can be found anywhere. If we open our eyes, we may discard the quiet janitor, the day laborer, or the part-time barista, never realizing they might hold the key to the next technological revolution. I implore you to see beyond appearances, because if we do, we lift not just one individual, but entire communities. She ended with a call to the audience. Ask yourselves, who around you is being overlooked right now? And what would happen if you offered them the tools, the platform, and the belief to show what they can do? The applause that followed felt like waves crashing onto a shore. Once, she'd have basked in it for personal validation. Now, she felt only gratitude, plus a sense of responsibility to continue broadening opportunities. As she stepped off the stage, her phone buzzed. She looked down at a text from Braxton Locke. That was the most inspiring speech I've heard in my life. Thank you for reminding me and the world that we have a lot of work to do. Alina smiled slightly, tucking the phone into her pocket. She thought about how far she'd come from the day Braxton Locke told her to mop up code errors. Much later that evening, she curled up with her notebook at home. She realized the people in that auditorium might share her message across social media, might push for more inclusive initiatives, might champion changes inside their own companies. That ripple effect was precisely what she'd always wanted to create: genuine transformation for those on the margins. She believed that if enough people recognized the hidden potential in every corner of society, they could reshape the entire future of technology. Above her desk hung a photo, one of her mother with a proud grin, standing beside the younger Alina at a college awards ceremony long ago. She traced the photo's edge gently. We did it. Mom, she whispered. We're no longer in the shadows. Reflecting on the entire roller coaster journey, she felt a surge of peace. She had faced scorn, endured heartbreak, worn a mask of invisibility, and emerged with her dignity not only intact, but stronger than before. And more importantly, she was lighting a path for others to do the same. So, if you've been listening to Alina's story, ask yourself, what if the person you dismissed today is the one who could change your life tomorrow? Maybe it's the grocery store cashier who's studying astrophysics at night. Maybe it's the rideshare driver who codes augmented reality apps between trips. We never know until we extend respect. And if her journey resonates with you, share this narrative. Let others hear how a single woman, once derided as a mere cleaner, ended up saving a powerful company from collapse and, in turn, discovered her own mission to uplift those who, like her, had been cast aside. Perhaps you'll inspire someone else to see beyond uniforms and job titles, unlocking brilliance where no one else dared to look. Thank you for being part of this story. Thank you for believing in the limitless potential within us all. If you agree that everyone deserves a fair shot to shine, please like, comment, and spread this message. We can stand together to ensure that no one else's light stays hidden in the shadows,